It is a bigger one, not much bigger. And this one is covered in thorns. Look like a bramble bush. Sweet. That one is absolutely covered in thorns. Look at that. Well, welcome back everyone. Today you join me on probably one of my favourite marks. Well, originally it was meant to be up Bendrix Rock, fishing for congers, but I pulled up there not long ago and I started walking down. I just had a weird feeling it was going to be a waste of time. Bendrix Rock isn't one of my most favourite marks. It's all a last minute session today, so I thought it was close to the workshop. So I was in work, it's a bit of a last minute thing. And I got down, I just wasn't feeling it, so I thought, come down to Sully Bay. So here you find me on Sully Bay. It's a mark that, without a doubt, is probably the mark I am most confident in fishing, being that I've had some big bags of fish down here, and also I've been fishing it literally all my life. Like, I'm now 26, and I think I started fishing this place when I was probably 7 with my dad. I got photos being down here literally really young, fishing with a flatty rod, catching codlin and bass and stuff with my old man. So I'm pretty confident down here. But I'm fishing differently to how I'd normally fish. I was all rigged up to fishing for eels. I'm basically still sticking to that. I've got quite a bit of fish bait with me. So, I mean, I'll see how the session plays out. I might change my rigs and stuff and fish for what I'm more confident for. I mean, there is some big eels down here. I've had them into mid-teens. I think 15, 16 is my biggest. I've lost a few as well. That sort of side would bit me off and stuff. Yeah. What I'll do now, I just got my first rod out there anyway. So I'll give you a run through of how I'd fish for congers. I hope you can hear me. There's a helicopter going over and it's quite loud. But anyway, I'll give you a quick rundown now of the baits I'm using and rigs and the usual stuff. So yeah. I suppose let's get to it. Right, so as you could imagine, I'm fishing with pulley rigs. But I do fish them. But normally, because as we all know, congers have a tendency of biting you off. So you got to fish with a heavy hook link because they got teeth. Normally I'd fish my whole length of my snood, my hook link, in heavy line between, I mean, I use the Tronics Xenon leader material. It's in the either, well, between 140 or the 180 pound stuff. For marks like this, where I'm not really expecting a monster, there's no tide, so they're not really going to be putting a great deal of pressure. I've fished a 140, that's heavy enough. Now, the only thing I have made a difference to my usual rigs is that I was speaking to a mate, someone you probably all would have known or heard of, is Bugsy Reed. He's a hell of a fisherman, especially into the match scene. He's well known. He's won some wicked, some amazing comps and all that. He's a very knowledgeable angler. And we were chatting, and like, I do this with my tote rigs. I never thought to never do it with my conger fishing is fishing basically a bite trace of heavy line, and then the rest of my rig body is the same as the backbone. Now I got, again, that's the Tronics Xenon stuff. It's the 100 pound, which is 1 mil, the diameter. Oh, there's a bite. Look at that. Bang on the money. Right, let's move the camera over. Don't look a big fish, but it's a fish. Still there, whatever it is. I'd quite confidently say it's an eel by the bite, but you never know. Could be a bass or something. This one's on whole squid and half a sardine alongside it. So I'll give it a minute to make sure he hooks himself. And they're big hooks, as I'll explain when I get back to the rig now, once I sort this fish out. Like I just said, there's no tide really, so it is worth giving it a bit of time, because as they pick up your bait, if there's not much tide, they're not really in much of a hurry to grab it and shoot off with the tide. So they might just mill around a bit and just sit there with it in their mouth and not properly get it in. So if he goes again, I'll wind down into it. Yeah, he's still there. Let's have a look. I'm not sure if we have it or not. We shall soon see. I don't think we have. I thought it looked like a small eel bite, so I don't really think it was big enough to get the bait in his mouth. As you can see, we missed it. But like I said, it was a small fish. I did think we took that, but you never know. And let's get back to that rig now, and I'll get that rig baited up and straight back out there. Well, as I was saying, with the bite trace, so I got a few inches there of 140-pound line. I got an 8/0 bottom hook. Now I'm not using circles for one reason. I haven't got any big enough, basically. I got an order with Tronics, and they did have any in stock of the bigger ones I like to use. So I'm going to have to go back to the pennels, which I'm not massively confident in, but I made do with them before I knew about the circle duck, so I'll make do with them now. So yeah, I got that bit of 140-pound bite trace, that up to a swivel. And then because I've got that swivel there, I don't need a swivel to connect the backbone of the rig to the hook link, so I literally just tie a knot in it and keep that 100-pound line running all the way down from the bite trace to my bait clip, which is a splashdown, which I prefer with the bigger baits, because you'll find imps will have a tendency of the bait coming off the imp in the cast if you've got a big bait. 7-ounce leads and a weak link, because it's rough on this part of the beach. And then baits wise, I got sardines, squid, scad and mackerel. Yeah, it's a lot of bait, I know. I got a problem with stuff like that. I always take too much bait. But hey ho, you have a decent cooler box, should keep it cool. Or I can refreeze it. What I am going to do on the next one though is just tell you what, let's just put a whole sardine on and send that up there. As usual, I've got ice packs in there, so that bait will stay frozen until I go home. So I'll just get that sardine, just cut the tail off, and then I'll put on one side of the fish, I'll put a little slit from the gill plate to the back of the head all the way down to the spine, to the tail, just along the lateral line. And then I get my bottom hook and then put it in behind the head in that slit, put it all the way through and out the eye. Then I push that hook down into that slit. I just pull the pennel out the way and I push that line in that slit, because what you'll find is that when you got big hooks and heavy line and you just you hook the bait, the hook through the bait and leave your hook and the line sitting on the top of the bait, once you elasticate it, you'll find the hook will actually spin and dig back into the bait, which obviously will result into you missing fish, which is not what you want. So having that hook sat in the bait in that little slit that we made will just completely stop that happening. So I just wrap that all the way up. Snap it off. And then whenever I use a pennel, I always actually have a proper inturned eye or bent eye as a proper pennel hook. I don't bother spinning the pennel round 2 or 3 times. I literally just hook it in and out, and it just sits lovely like that. So we'll get that out there now and see if there's a bigger fish out there than what just grabbed the bait. Let's see if we can hook it this time. Distance isn't a key down here. It's not really that important, but being an outgoing tide at the minute, I'll stick there a bit further, just to make sure we're in a bit more depth of water than in what will be in close. Still not really that far, to be honest, but it's far enough where it's going to be in a bit of depth, like I said. Because you'll find in close here, you'll see it a bit later when it approaches low water, there's like corally ledges, and there's all sorts of like crabs, ragworm, little fish in amongst them ledges feeding the coral, so those fish are down there feeding and all that. Well guys, he's back. That was a bit of a better bite, that as well. Broke my lead out, but I can't feel the fish on there. Oh, I can now. He's broke my lead out and he's just swimming in with it by the feels of it. And that's sardine. He's there. That's definitely a Neil. No doubt it's a Neil. Let's try him. Yeah, we got him. I think. Yeah. Doesn't feel particularly big, but it's a fish, I think. Just spat the hook. That is so typical. Oh well. Like I said, there's no tide down here, so they tend to grab your baits and just play with it for ages, and then just, oh, he was on there. He didn't feel very big, but he was on there. You can see the bait's pretty, well, it's not really that mashed, to be honest, but it was definitely a Neil. Well, I was literally just currently baiting up it's a lighter pulley, little short pulley with a 5/0 circle, so I'm going to quickly bang out there now and see if I can actually hook it, just to get a fish on camera. So I know there's fish out there, but I know there'll be big fish out there as well, so let's get out there. Oh guys, it's turned into a bit of a tough one now. The bites have eased right off. I had bites on my first 3 casts. I mean, it is a bit of a big tide for down here. It's like a 13.9 metre tide today. And you'll find, if you get down here like 2.5, 3 hours before low, you'll have fish, or bites at least, on up down till probably about an hour before low. And it'll ease a bit, and then you'll have bites on the flood then. So we're kind of going through a bit of the quiet time of the tide. Well, there's not even a bit of elastic on there. That hook is completely stripped, and that dongle. Some days crabs can be a bit of a pain down here. There was a chunk of squid on that. Wasn't even out there for ages. Let's try a sardine. That's what all our bites have been on so far. Now, I was saying earlier on that there's no tide. What you will find though, sometimes on a massive tide, well not sometimes, on a massive tide, you will get a tide run, but I never fish this on a massive tide because it's so shallow. Basically, we're about 3/4 of the way up the bay towards Sully Island, as you can see in the background, and then about halfway up the beach, on a massive tide, the water will touch the ledges and then just completely miss the rest of the beach, and then go all the way over to Hayes Point, which is just over before it gets into the Bendrix. So it's just so shallow where on a massive tide, you cast out on a big tide, and when your lead won't even trip because it's just pounded into the mud, because by here, like I said, it's rough, so it's like the ground over here now, it's like rocky ledges and bits of coral and stuff, but over there it's just mud, so your leg just goes straight into that mud, and it's never normally good for fishing on a massive tide down here. I'm not sure if I've already said, but like the fish that normally you get down here is your congers, thornies, bass. You get the hounds in the summer, actually, something I forgot about. And you get codling. Well, years ago I used to get some big cod down here, because obviously, as you can imagine, all this coral, there's just so much food down here. A lot of prawn as well down here. Used to be able to, when I was a kid, I used to dig good lugworm down here, but that's just stopped now. There's not really a great deal of places to dig it. You can dig ragworm along here through the ledge, but it's such hard work for what you get out of it. But if you are like willing to put the effort in, you will get rewarded with some good fish. A few doors up from where I live, there was a guy, this old guy used to live there, Bob, and he used to come down, and he was quite, I can't remember how old he was, but he was quite old at the time. He used to get all his fishing gear, walk down to the beach, walk all the way up towards the island with all his gear now, dig a few worm. If he'd had 6 worm, he'd be happy. He'd walk all the way back up to the other end of the beach and fish with that. And I never used to see him without fish. He'd always have cod or bass with him every single time I seen him. So having that, you know, the right bait, what they're feeding on, you can't go wrong. Well guys, it's getting a bit desperate for a fish now. We had bites on our first 3 casts, and now it's gone pretty quiet. Bait's coming back and all ripped up. I just changed that rod and there was literally nothing left on the hooks. That one's all minced up. So it's probably not worth doing, but I'm gonna put on a 2-hook clip down now, some small hooks. I think there's like size 4s on this rig, so they're really small hooks. It's got a plain lead. I'm not gonna put it far, we're gonna lob it out there like 30 yards, because there is quite a lot of rockling down here and stuff. I've just baited it up with bits of sardine, well, one with sardine and one with mackerel. It's probably a waste of a lead, but forget it's a fish. And I'm happy. And you just got little small baits. Oh, knocked that lead off. But you will find though, down here, more so on this end of the, as you're looking out to sea, we're on the left hand side of the beach, on the rough ground, you'll find it does tend to die off like a bit over low. Like I think we're coming on to about, I don't know, 40 minutes to an hour away from low now, and it does typically quiet off, especially on the bigger tides. I guess like I think it's a 14 metre today, and that's bigger than what I'd normally like to fish down here, but I had to make do today. Like I said, it was a bit of a last minute session, so I wasn't really taking much serious today, and I haven't got worm. If I was to properly fish this place, I'd want worm, so there's out right up there. And as well, it's very bright today, as you can tell, which makes a change, which I don't normally like down here. I prefer, all my good sessions being down here have always been when it's raining and windy and just like a miserable day. Like there was one night I was down here, it wasn't on this part where we are now, it's further up the beach. It was literally, I think it was 30-mile-an-hour winds, it was absolutely howling through, raining most morning, and I think I had 6 thornies and 8 eels, and I think I had a bass that day. It was all just kicking off. I wasn't even down here that long because the weather was so bad. I don't think I was down here for like 3 hours. That was a wicked morning's fishing. But all my sessions like that have always been when it's bad weather, which obviously doesn't go hand in hand with filming with the cameras. But I'm gonna keep persisting though. I might pack away the heavier rigs and just fish a bit lighter to try and get a fish or two on the camera for you guys to see. Because as it starts flooding, I'm hoping we should get a couple fish. Like, no, we would have had a couple fish by now if I wasn't fishing big, because they are 8-0s, these hooks. So they're going back in the box, and I'm just going to fish lighter. Well guys, look at that. That 2-hook flapper, clip down riggy thingy, was in the water for literally a couple of minutes and it's got a bite. So everyone cross your fingers. There we go. I think we got a fish on. I think we're in. What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? Yeah, you definitely got a fish. That's exactly what I thought it is. A little slimy conger eel. Oh. Yep. Well, that was a fresh rig out the back, oh, the little rig wallets. And I can quite confidently say that's the last time that rig is ever going to get used. There we go. It's a fish. I'll give it to you though. It's not the biggest fish I've ever caught or ever been on the channel. But it's a fish. And we're fishing, so if any of you are thinking, what are you doing catching that? I'm here fishing, so a fish is a fish. I'm happy. When it's tough, I'll catch anything. But I will say though, I don't want many of them. If I can sort that rig out, I will cast it back out there. But I'm not a massive fan of these things. But it beats a blank. I'm just going to unhook it straight away because I don't want to touch it. I'm sure you guys are sick of seeing it. Well, I was just thinking about packing up a bit early because it's been so quiet. My left rod just tripped out. As I said, on the bigger tides you do get a bit of tide on the flood, which is what we're getting now. And my left rod's tripping out slightly, which is not that much tide there. So you never know, it might be a fish out there. I was just packing up one of my rigs then. I looked up and the left one was right up and there was a bit of a bow in the line. It's gone back over now, but you never know, it might be a fish on there. And the bait's a bit something a bit different on there. Oh, yeah. That looks like a fish to me. It's pulling over a bit. Yeah, I would have said that's a fish. Yeah. I definitely say that's a fish. It don't look like an eel neither. It's quite a bit of a slow bite on it. As I was moving that camera then, I noticed the rod lifted back up, so I reckon something's certain. Let's have a look. Yeah, there's definitely some weight there. I'm probably going to say it's a Thornback, just purely because the line is, oh yeah, no, it's a ray by the looks of it. Seen it on the surface then. Yeah, it's a ray. No doubt it's a Thornback as well, because it's probably the only type of ray that are in this bay. Although you go on the boats out there and you fill your boots with blondes, sweet how they don't come in here. I don't think they like the mud. Or just be a blonde now. Amazing if it is, my first one out of here. Looks like a small thornback. Yeah, thornback. Well, gotta be fair, I've been a tough session, so I am very happy with that. Well, I'm going to get it in the pool now, get it in the hook, get it in the pool, and I'll bring back for a closer look now. Well, there he is, guys. That certainly saved our session, didn't it? Although it's still not the biggest thorny ever. It's welcome nonetheless. But I don't know if I said, but it was on a bait that you probably wouldn't expect to use. I've done quite well with them actually. It's a goby, the little rock gobies you find in the rock pools. And you'll be surprised sometimes when it's really tough going, there's fish out there, but they're feeding on the naturals, like your gobies, your rockling, prawns, crabs, that kind of stuff. And sometimes just, like then I tried all the baits. I've tried sardines, mackerel, scad and squid, not a bite. Chucked the goby out there, it was out there for like 10 minutes and I doubt it'd come along. So it just goes to show sometimes. Well, my left rod's actually lifted up, it's been out there for a little while with a big bait on it, but it just goes to show sometimes sticking on natural bait can always find you a fish when it's tough. So I'm going to get him straight back home, give another cast or two and see how it goes. I'll probably fish until it's coming on to darkness, because our sun's, what was that then? Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, I've got a bite. Look at this now, fish are coming through. That left rod, I'm sure you can see that going. That's on a conger rig again. And that's going a bit better than the other ones have. There's a bit of tide there now, so fingers crossed we'll hook them. Something's there. Might be another thorny, you never know. You find sometimes down here, when you get one thorny, you get loads of them. Now this is on a big bait, it's on a whole squid and half a sardine on the 8/0 hooks. So I'll give it a bit of time to make sure I actually hook it. It's still there. Yeah, let's try him. There we go. That's a fish. Happy days, happy days. It feels a little bit bigger than that fish we just had. Yeah, it's a thorny, look, I think. Not sure if it's much bigger, but it's another thorny. Most importantly, another fish. It is a bigger one, not much bigger, and this one is covered in thorns. Looks like a bramble bush. Sweet. That one is absolutely covered in thorns. Look at that. Well, there's obviously a couple of fish out there now, so I'm going to get him in the pool with the other one. and get that rig baited straight back up and try and catch ourselves another thorny. There's a big old bait he took. Just put a whole sardine up then into Thornyville. So we're starting to lose, well, not really losing the light, but it won't be long and we will be. So I need to get my gear back now. Yeah, I need to start getting my gear pushed back now because the tide's, basically, I'll show you in a minute, but we're on the little ledge that uncovers, and you gotta, on the drop I fish just the side of it, because if you have a fish on, you'll actually get your fish stuck on the ledge. So I normally fish just the round side of it. Then when it uncovers, I jump back on this, well, I jump on this, fish that. Now as our tide pushes in, I move back over to where I was earlier on. But I'll give these ones now. If I have a fish on these, I'll move and keep filming until I lose the light completely. But if not, I'll make these my last cast. But I'll get those, the thornies back on camera for you guys to see. And we'll get them pushed straight back then. Happy days, caught some fish in the end. Well, there we are, guys. A cracking brace of thornies to end the session on. That was the first one that you've already seen. I'll get him back in the pool in a minute before I chuck him back. And there's the second one we had. You can see on that one, look at the spikes on him. You would not want to be wading out and standing on him with bare feet. That would do some damage. But like I said, I need to get my gear put back now. Back up the beach a bit. There we go. Even his tail, look. That is savage. You can see why they call them Thornback. And even this one's covered on the underside. It's covered in the spikes. I'd love to know if any of you know why. Drop it in the comments of why some have got loads of spikes and some haven't. Because that one, I haven't got really any on it. Just along the ridge and nothing on the wings, but this one's covered in them. There we are. Bit of persistent paid off. Changing the bait, something a bit different. So yeah, I'm going to give it these now. And you never know, I might have another fish or have another cast, so I won't finish it off just yet. Because if they're out there, there might be more, or there might be a conger out there, who knows. But let's see what it brings anyway. Well guys, that's my last rod in. Now as you can see, the ledge I'm stood on here is the ledge I'm on about. It goes down for another, like, I don't know, 50 yards, not much. So as you can imagine, being back there, even when this is slightly covered, when you're bringing a fish along that, there's a chance it might snag up and you lose it. So I always fish to the side of it until it uncovers completely, then I'll get on it. So there we are, that's another session done. Just pack these rods up now, get home, make some rigs. I'm back out fishing tomorrow now. Haven't decided where yet. High water, it's like a 13.5 metre tide, something like that. So not sure where I'm going to go. It's between a couple options. It's between, depends on the wind's like in the morning. It's meant to be quite low, but you never know, it might change. It's between Sully Island over high, Witches, the Deeps, or possibly the White Light. I haven't made my mind up. But wherever I end up, you'll see me there. One thing I did forget to say with doing the conger rigs like you would with the tow rigs with a bite end, the reason I do that instead of having my whole hook link, well from now on I'm going to do it anyway, is why it's better than having a whole hook link in like 140, 180 pound hook link, is because that length of stiff line, when it's out there, it's just not as natural. And just having enough to obviously get the big fish in, and then the rest in like 100 is a lot more natural when it's out there. And it's surprising, like even them thornies, it's, you know, it's, you got a light hook link, or the rest, not light, but it's lighter, and it just stops other fish getting put off by it, because they, well, I think they do anyway. I think most fish get put off by heavy hook links. It's like most of my rigs, like I've said so many times, I've only used like a 50-pound hook link for my ray rigs and stuff. And if I'm fishing very clean ground where you know you're not going to, like say the Nap in Barry, sometimes I'll even drop down to a 40-pound hook link, because you'll definitely notice yourself getting more bites and getting more fish on the rocks. That's what it's all about. But I'm going to just pack this up now and get out of here, because I am dying for a drink. I forgot to bring one with me. Surprise, surprise, I always forget food and drink when I go fishing. Get back to my truck, get the gear in there, go home. Thankfully, it's only a couple-minute drive. It's not far. Well, I'm going to go to my workshop first, actually, which is only the Bendrix, and dump all my gear off there, ready for tomorrow. And put the bait in the freezer. But yes, wherever I end up, I shall see you there. So, as usual, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.